All right, let's bring in our guests to pick up with the conversation. We have Mr. Idris Abubakar Mohammed. He's a Special Assistant to the Director General for the National Emergency Management Agency. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. This is a very crucial time for Nigeria, and I know the mandate of the agency is disaster management. And at this time, Mr. Omar Mohammed, a holistic coordination towards systematic flood risk management is very important. How is the agency coping with the growing impact of these floods across the country?
Thank you very much. Let me start by notifying us that by the beginning of this August, NEMA set up an emergency Operations Center at the headquarters of the agency. And by the dashboard of that EOC, today, across the country, we have 145 local governments affected by floods in 28 states. 568,917 persons are affected, out of which 209,342 are displaced. They are forced to flee their homes because of this inundation.
Yeah.
81,386 houses have either been completely destroyed or are partially damaged and are not suitable for human habitation. Sadly, 190 lives have been lost. In the same vein, 2,042 persons have suffered various degrees of injuries. 107,815 hectares of farmlands are either washed away or completely inundated by floodwaters. This is the scenario as of today. And going to a question of flood disaster mitigation is a very comprehensive, all-encompassing plan. Flood mitigation, as far as NEMA is concerned, starts with flood early warning dissemination. We are lucky that the hydrometeorological agencies we have in Nigeria, the Nigerian Meteorological Services and the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, that's NIMET and NISA, beginning of the year, they have given us the climate forecast. And NEMA has looked at this climate forecast to look at the disaster management implication and develop disaster mitigation strategies for downscaling to communities, to all the states of Nigeria, all communities at risk. But the bottom line is that early warning must be matched with early action.
I'm glad you mentioned action, Mr. Mohammed, because it is true, NEMA has always adopted the early warning alert system, you know, going by the seasonal rainfall climate prediction. You've gone to these communities as part of your preparedness mechanism. What were some of the bottlenecks, you know, the agency encountered towards taking action?
Yeah, the bottlenecks are many, they are multidimensional. You see, disaster management architecture in Nigeria and anywhere in the country is bottom up.
Yeah.
As we always say in NEMA, every disaster happens in a particular community, in a particular local government, in a particular state. So ideally, the first responder should be in that very community before external support comes in from the state capital or from Abuja.
Yeah.
Mercifully, in the past couple of years, every state of Nigeria has set up a functional State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. Because the law that set of NEMA made provision for State Emergency Management Agency at the state level and local emergency management committee. So if disaster hits, the first responders to save lives and restore normalcy are from that very community. When the local capacity is overwhelmed, the state SEMAs bring assistance. When state capacities are overwhelmed, NEMA from the federal government provides the stopgap. In a situation whereby a disaster is so catastrophic, Nigeria cries out to the international community and seeks for support. It has happened in 2012, even 2022, we had external support. So that is the architecture. I'll give you an example. When you look at the present scenarios, the northern states of Nigeria now are experiencing heavy floods, heavy inundation. As of today, the worst hit states are Bauchi, Zamfara, Sokoto, Jigawa, Niger, irrespective of affected persons. Irrespective of human displacement, it is Sokoto and Bauchi. Lives lost is Jigawa and Kano. A week ago, our zonal office in Kano requested for the mobilization of search and rescue officers from the Kano Territorial Office to Jigawa State. The deployment of water treatment equipment. We have mobile water treatment plant. Okay. It's like a waterworks on wheels. You deploy it to any community affected by disaster. You take raw water anywhere, and there you are. You provide water to the communities.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed, I'm glad you're mentioning the statistics of people being displaced and affected communities. We're seeing the heightened vulnerability of this flood across the country. We want to know what NEMA is doing at this time. We'll pick up when we come back from the break.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Mohammed, you've seen how states have been ravaged by the impacts of the flood. You've talked about, precautionary measures that are supposed to be taken. We've seen federal government come up with intervention funds, the 3 billion naira to states and the FCT. What action plan is on ground now? Because communities are meant to build their resilience and bring back their livelihood.
Thank you very much. You see, like we always say, Prophet Noah did not build the ark when the flood has started.
Yep.
So even before the rains started, like I said, NEMA has developed early warning actions, early warning alerts, including risk mapping of all communities, all local government at risk across the country. And we have gone to every state of Nigeria to downscale these flood early warning messages, including mitigation strategies. So every local government, every state is expected to do its bits. Before the rain starts, people are expected to work together to clear refuse that is blocking waterways, drainage channels.
Yeah.
Urban and regional planning agencies. You see, the land law vested land under the custodianship of the state government.
Yeah.
So therefore, urban and regional planning authorities are expected to not allocate plots of land along waterways, not to grant building permits for people to put houses, markets, and several other structures, because water always finds its way. And therefore, we at NEMA, our intervention starts from conducting search and rescue operations, because somebody has to be alive before you give him rice and beans and blanket.
Yeah. So
in every military formation of Nigeria, we have the disaster response units, which are always sports NEMA, sports subnational level actors at the state and local government levels if there is a disaster. Not necessarily only flood disaster, any other disaster. It can be building collapse, it can be automobile accident. These DRUs are always there to spot. And we convene our emergency coordination forum in Abuja here, where the security agencies, the police, the civil defense, because every disaster site is a potential crime scene.
Yeah.
And for disaster incidents, you need crowd control. So that we are doing consistently, partnering with these stakeholders to give support. Then within limitations of our funding, where people have been displaced, they are living either in IDP camps, other temporary shelters, or living with host communities, NEMA provides necessary support. Prior to the beginning of this escalation of floods, state governments have identified safer and higher grounds where people are expected to move.
But are they moving?
In terms of human displacement.
Mr. Mohammed, are they moving? Because we've had cases of where some persons in communities don't want to move when the sensitization is brought to them about the impact of the floods. They don't want to leave their ancestral homes.
I agree with you. Not only in Nigeria, even in the US, during the Katrina incidents, many people refused to leave their homes. Number one, for somebody to leave his house, you must have given him an alternative accommodation where he lives. Exactly. So state governments had the responsibility of setting up IDP camps. Unfortunately, in several instances, our schools have been turned into IDP camps. And of course, that has the consequential effect of disrupting normal routine education. We have a plan for education in emergency. You can deploy technology to sustain education. But absolutely, it is correct. And let me say this. Water is like a magnet. Anywhere you see water, people are bound to live very close to that water body. Look for any open space in Abuja here. Put a water fountain. You see people congregating there. If you look at the map of the world, major cities are along the coastlines. So water bodies attract people. Yet, in times of emergency, people are expected to move away from any place that constitute hazard, constitute risk to their lives. These are advocacies that we have to consistently be doing. Okay. The more we are doing it, the more we are building that resilient population in Nigeria. Okay, it's just unfortunate, Mr. Mohammed, that every year we come back on this table to discuss this issue. We just hope that in the near future there will be a durable solution to these issues. Thank you very much, Mr. Idris Mohammed Abubakar. He's the Special Assistant to the Director General for the National Emergency Management Agency. Well done. Keep up the good work. Let's get